Math? For someone like you? Stick to mops, Grandma. The words sliced through the lecture hall like a knife. Ruth Carter stood frozen near the whiteboard, still gripping her cleaning cart. Around her, students chuckled, their designer backpacks and laptops gleaming under the bright Princeton lights. Professor Langford, tall, sharp-suited, her blonde hair pinned tight, stared at Ruth with disdain. Ruth had only wanted to empty the trash cans, but the complex equation left half-solved on the board had caught her eye. "This is advanced calculus, not janitor fantasy hour," Langford sneered. Ruth's eyes drifted to the equation again. It wasn't pride that made her speak next. It was the memory of nights spent at the kitchen table, her late husband whispering, "Numbers never care who's holding the chalk." Ruth wiped her trembling hands on her janitor uniform, eyes never leaving the board. "That limit, it's misapplied," she said softly. A hush fell over the room, curiosity mixing with amusement. Langford's heels clicked as she approached, towering over Ruth. "Really? Perhaps you'd like to enlighten us, Professor of Cleaning?" Ruth didn't flinch. Her heart pounded, but so did her memories of tutoring her husband through community college, of solving equations by flashlight when power was out. Slowly, Ruth picked up the marker. Laughter rippled behind her, but she focused. Her hand moved, correcting terms, simplifying steps. When she capped the marker, the room was silent. Professor Langford's eyes narrowed. "Lucky guess," she muttered. But in the front row, Dean Walker had seen everything. The next day, whispers followed Ruth as she scrubbed floors. The cleaning lady did math? No way. Professor Langford wasn't done. She called an open challenge in her next lecture: solve the theorem displayed or leave. Ruth heard it from a student and returned that evening, quiet, determined. The board gleamed under the fluorescent lights. Impossible equations sprawled across it. Langford stood beside it, smirking when Ruth entered. "Here to mop the floor or clean up my math?" But Ruth wasn't alone this time. Dean Walker stepped in behind her, his voice calm. "I believe we should let her try." Murmurs filled the hall. Ruth approached the board, marker trembling, until memory steadied her hand. The symbols danced beneath her hand, familiar, comforting. Ruth's mind drifted to those years with Marcus, her late husband, the kitchen table covered in textbooks and hope. She finished, stepping back, the solution crisp, elegant. A stunned silence hung. Professor Langford's face flushed crimson. "Impossible," she whispered, scanning the board. The math was flawless. The students gawked. A boy in the front row clapped nervously. Dean Walker's voice sliced the tension. "Professor Langford, I believe Ms. Carter deserves respect and an apology." Langford's eyes darted, pride battling reality. Finally, she spoke, each word bitter but clear. "You were correct. I apologize." Ruth only nodded. She wasn't here for apologies. The numbers spoke for themselves. As Ruth gathered her cart, a folded note appeared beside the board. Dean Walker handed it to her discreetly. A job offer. Tutoring assistant for the university's remedial math program. Ruth smiled faintly, but shook her head. "I clean. That's enough for now." She walked out, her footsteps soft against the polished floors. Behind her, students watched, not with mockery, but quiet awe. Professor Langford lingered, staring at the solved equation, a reminder that brilliance wears many faces. The sunlight outside glinted off the campus windows. Ruth adjusted her cart, whispering to herself, "They finally see me." But she didn't need their applause. Numbers always knew her worth.
In life, people often judge based on uniforms, age, or skin color. But Ruth Carter proved that knowledge has no label. Her quiet courage reminds us, dignity speaks louder than prejudice. Never underestimate silent brilliance. If this story inspired you, don't forget to like, comment your thoughts, and subscribe for more powerful true stories. Your support helps us share voices that deserve to be heard.